Welcome to the review of episode 10 of Shaka Ilembe season 1. We are 10 episodes in and the writers did me dirty in this episode. Let's do this. In this episode, Gendayana is really dead. Nandi and Shaka move on to a new home. There's a new war brewing and I'm recovering from a flu, so bear with me. Let's get straight into it. Guys, I'm so hurt. I don't think there's been a death on the show that has affected me so much as the death of Gendayana. And I had so much hope in the last episode that he might possibly still be alive. But for it to be confirmed that he's actually dead, I am gutted. I guess this is part of Shaka's story, and it also is a part of what makes him the man that he is. So after the fatal consequences of Shaka's decisions in the previous episodes, Shaka has a lot to prove. And he also wants to do right by his mother, Nandi, who has sacrificed so much to ensure his well-being and make sure that she brings him up in the correct way. And in this episode, Nandi continues to make those sacrifices. I mean, we see her leaving her home again, now leaving to go to Oyengweni, where she has hopes that Udingiswayo will mentor Shaka into the king that he needs to become. So I actually wasn't imagining things in the review of episode 9 because I mentioned there that I noticed a little comparison that was being made, or a contrast that was being made between Shaka and Dingiswayo, where they were displaying the type of king that Dingiswayo is and how fit he is to rule, comparing and contrasting that against the position where Shaka is and how much he still needs to learn in the journey he still needs to go on to reach the stage where Dingiswayo is. And this is confirmed in this episode because Nandi is going to Dingiswayo hoping that he will mentor Shaka into the king that he needs to become. And I think this just ties back into the prophecy again. The prophecy that Nandi believes is about Shaka. You know, she's doing whatever is necessary to make sure that she prepares Shaka for the king that he needs to become, the king that is spoken of in this prophecy. And I just like the way that this character of Nandi is written. You know, she's not passive at all about this prophecy. She's not just sitting at home waiting and hoping that one day, somehow, by some miracle, Shaka will become the king that is spoken of, the great king that is spoken about in the prophecy. But no, she at least has this foresight to understand that a man that is able to achieve the things that the prophecy speaks of needs to be the kind of man that is wise, disciplined, of strong character, and is a strong warrior as well, strong in warfare. So she has been doing everything that she can in raising Shaka to prepare him for this. And I mean, we see it in so many different choices that Nandi has made. The prophecy has motivated the choices that she has made. And another one of these choices that Nandi makes to prepare Shaka for the king he needs to become is the move that they make from Mtandeni of the Kwabe people to Oyengweni, where she hopes that Udingiswayo will mentor Shaka and, you know, transfer the skills and the knowledge that he needs to become the king talked about in the prophecy. And Nandi's plan works because as soon as they arrive in Oyengweni, Shaka is immediately noticed by Ungomane and Udingiswayo as that brave warrior that was fighting in the Mtetwa Civil War. That's what I'm calling it. The fight between Dingiswayo and Mawewe, the Mtetwa Civil War. So they notice him from that war and immediately draft him into the army. And it's in this episode where we start to see the rise to fame of Shaka as a strong and a brave warrior. And it makes sense, I mean, because Shaka has a lot to prove to his mother. And in the process of doing that, he's also looking for a way to elevate himself and get close and get the recognition of the king himself. He even goes as far as leading a group of some warriors to fight this Ilembe guy, you know, a strong military veteran who's going through PTSD, I guess, something like that. But this warrior, this veteran is feared and he's been terrorizing the Oyengweni clan. So Shaka leads a group of men to go and fight against this guy, and he wins. He wins, and this further garners the recognition of Shaka as a warrior. It garners respect for Shaka, not only from the king himself, Udingiswayo, but also from the people of Ekudunkomo, the Ndwandwe people, who start to see him as a force to be reckoned with. And speaking about the Ndwandwe people, they are back. If you have been watching my reviews, you know how excited I am about the fact that the Ndwandwes are back on our screens, because I have missed them so much since they left about 4 episodes ago. These guys always come with the drama, and it's no different this time. So they are at the center of another brewing war, and this time the fight is about the control of trade routes. So just a quick recap. It's been roughly 20 years since we last saw the Ndwandwes, and the last time we saw them, they were going through a drought which ended when Queen Nandi did her supernatural things. I don't even want to revisit that. But since that time, 20 years ago, over the past 20 years, the land of the Ekudunkomo kingdom has prospered because their drought has now ended, and they have been rising in power and in strength and in prosperity as a whole. So we're now 20 years into the future, we're seeing them again, and they now control the trade routes, and they now are suspecting that these trade routes are being sabotaged or being interfered with by the Mthethwa clan. So there's a new storyline now being developed as well, leading us to believe that there's a war that's going to take place. On the other hand as well, at the Oyengweni Mthethwa Palace, Dingiswayo is acknowledging the power rise, or the rise of power of the Ndwandwe people. And what he's trying to do now is rally all of the neighboring kings around him so that they can form an alliance against Zwide and the Ndwandwe people. And one of those neighboring kings that he wants to rally to form an alliance with is the Elangeni kingdom, where uMakedama is now the king. If you remember Makedama, he is one of those bullies that Shaka had to face. And he's just another one of those annoying characters, man, just like Mawewe. So we see him now as the king of Elangeni, and he's a king who's ruling with fear. He's ruling with his pride and his ego. So this automatically just makes him a perfect pawn to be used by the Ndwandwe people in their fight against the Mthethwa people. And the reason for this is because the Ndwandwe people want to start a war against the Mthethwas. It's a fight for the trade routes. So they want to start a fight against the Mthethwas, but they don't want to be the ones. The Ndwandwes don't want to be the ones to wage the war. So seeing this situation where Makedama is now going to be asked to pledge his loyalty to the Mthethwa clan and join forces with them, they know that Makedama, with his pride and his ego, is unlikely to agree to pledge his loyalty to the Mthethwa Oyengweni people. So they are going to use it. And it's all the plan of Queen Nandi. She has not changed. She is still as calculative, still as, intelligent in plotting and scheming as the last time that we saw her. So those are the events of the 10th episode of Shaka Ilembe. But what I want to focus on in this episode particularly is the writing and the writers on the show. This is just another department of the production where they have done an amazing and a great job. The story of Shaka is the story of the events that influenced the man who we know today as King Shaka. It's not just a story about the things that he did, but it's a story of his becoming, right? And if you think about it, we started off the season with the war between the Zulus and the Ndwandwes. This war, coupled with the prophecy that the Sanusi came with, ensured that kaSenzangakhona fathers Shaka in the first place, right? And then when the Ndwandwes lost this war, Zwide was captured by the Mthethwa people, And this is what ensured that Queen Ntombazi ended up in the Mthethwa Palace and start a chain reaction of events, leading to Dingiswayo's exile of like 18 plus years and leading him back to come and fight his brother Umawewe for the throne in the Mthethwa Civil War. And it's the same war where Dingiswayo fights Umawewe, where Shaka now is fighting for the first time alongside Ugendeyana. And the reason Shaka is fighting alongside Gendeyana in the Mthethwa Civil War is because of the banishment of Nandi and her kids from KwaNobamba and Elangeni, which then saw them ending up in Emthandeni with the Kwabe people, where they started a new life with Gendeyana. And it's the same Gendeyana that trained Shaka into a warrior and led him in his first war, the Mthethwa Civil War, where he caught the attention of Dingiswayo, who ended up becoming king in that war, right? But unfortunately, Gendeyana dies in that war. And because of that, Nandi needs to leave Emthandeni and goes to Oyengweni, where Dingiswayo is now king and in a position to draft Shaka into the army. So even Shaka's hardships, the fact that how the banishment affected him and his mother, Gendeyana's death, how that affected him, that is weaved. The hardship that Shaka experienced is weaved into the chain of events that I've just explained, right? And it's these hardships weaved into these chain of events that shape him into the man that he is. So this story is so intricate, but it's beautifully woven, and it just, to me, reinforces the idea that nothing ever happens by coincidence. Every single event is a result of choices that people make, and it's these choices that shape us into the people that we become. Job well done, writers, on Shaka Ilembe. So that is it for the review of episode 10 of Shaka Ilembe season 1. I am looking forward to seeing the story develop a little bit more, trying to see this war developing between the Mthethwas and the Ndwandwes. But there's only 2 episodes left of the season, so I think it's safe to say that Shaka is not going to become king in this season. So I'm very interested to see where the story ends up by the end of the season. I'm looking forward to it. 2 more episodes left. What was your favorite part of this episode? Let me know, and I will see you guys next week for the review of episode 11 of Shaka Ilembe season 1. Goodbye.